What's up everybody, Dane Jackson here at the Put In Let's Sakine, and in this video I can finally talk about the Gnarvana, and it is yeah! Alright, before I get in this video, once again I should disclose I am sponsored by Jackson Kayak. That being said, I'm 100% honest when it comes to kayak design, whether it's our designs, other brand designs. I've paddled just about every creek boat on the market. And over the last few years in my mind, I've really started to think about exactly what type of creek boat I've wanted, and this is it. I can't even begin to describe how fired up I am on this boat. This is the most complete package creek boat I have ever paddled. Going into this boat, we had one major thing in mind, and that was confidence. We wanted this boat to take care of you whether you nail the line or don't on all types of whitewater. We wanted to make sure that this thing was going to get you down as smooth as possible. So one of the first questions I'm sure you have is the length. We kept this thing at 8'10", which is the length I'm super stoked on because it's a little bit shorter, it's a little bit lighter, easier to boof, but it's still long enough to still have all that speed I want. One of the first things we did gave this boat so much rocker in the bow and the stern. And we made sure to carry the rocker throughout the whole boat to make sure to get those ends really nice and high out of the water. But not only that, we also made sure to carry the width through the middle of the boat. So that width combined with this rocker profile gets this boat so high out of the water. There's such a short water line, this will be the highest floating boat you have ever paddled. And another great thing about how high this boat floats is that the contact with rocks is so minimal. That means whether you're boofing off a rock to get into an eddy or boofing off a rock for fun, but it's also super nice for shallow lift, whether for a boof or a waterfall, whatever it is, you're able to get your speed out and away a lot better. And that high rocker combined with how high this boat floats, ow, it's fun on getting it! And that high rocker combined with how high this boat floats and with how dry this bow stays, it honestly is just hilarious. I've never experienced as much joy as how dry this bow stays, but also just how I just feel like I'm levitating over everything. And another thing we did is we actually kept the bow a little wider than we traditionally have. And the reason for that is by having the bow stay a bit wider, combined with the high rocker and a nice planing surface, this bow wants to start lifting a lot earlier. Meaning that even when I land slightly bow down and my bow's going to start getting wet, this thing wants to come rocketing out super fast. So I'm carrying my speed away from stuff even when my bow gets wet. So that means I'm getting way less chest folds, and it means that I'm carrying my speed through and over features a lot more than I have in the past. Why do I keep filming these at the hottest point of the day? We gave it all the volume we want in the middle to make sure you got stability, but also nothing that can grab you at the hip. We gave it lots of volume in the bow, so this thing wants to resurface so fast, especially combined with that high bow rocker. We also gave it plenty of volume in the stern, so you don't have to worry about back entering this boat even when you're fully loaded. Another thing that's really great about all this volume on the deck is there's way more space for overnight gear. Like right now I'm at the Sakine and I can fit all my stuff in the bow and the stern super easily. There's so many things I want to talk about. So going into this boat, I wasn't super stressed about speed because my main focus was I wanted this boat to stay on top of the water as much as possible. And in the end, when your bow's staying dry and you're carrying your speed out from holes, curlers, anything in front of you, you're going to feel like you're going fast anyways. But when it comes to actual speed of this boat, even in flat water, this thing is not slow. I was genuinely surprised how fast this boat is, and that's one of the biggest things that gets me so stoked is I've got all the high floating, all the confidence, the driest bow, but also all the speed to enjoy the run too. But not only that, we gave this thing full edges, so this thing carves fantastic. I feel like I'm just paddling the most joyful boat I've ever paddled. It's actually going to be hard to imagine not paddling this every day. So not only is this the driest bow I've ever experienced and the highest floating boat I've ever paddled, but one thing that this boat does incredibly well that was a massive factor for me going into this boat was control. This thing is ridiculously easy to paddle. I wanted to make sure that I was in control at all times. Even at top speed, when I am flying out of a booth, flying over a curler, whatever it is, I can just pick this bow up and keep in control at all times. At no point do I feel like my bow is getting away from me. I can keep this thing in control at all times. And that just gives me next level confidence knowing that no matter what type of river I'm on, I'm going to be able to keep this boat in control, which means I'm going to feel more confident on all types of whitewater. And another thing that's just so amazing about this boat for me is I feel like nothing was sacrificed to make something else better. So in the end, this just feels like the most total package boat I've ever paddled. So whether it's running the hardest whitewater or just another joy lap, I feel like both of those are going to be the best time possible. But we also went ahead and focused on some smaller details to make sure all our bases were covered. We actually designed the end of the stern to be as structured as possible, and we actually designed the parting line specifically to make sure it can take as much abuse as possible and you're not going to worry about it breaking. We brought back the rear grab handles here, which is so nice, whether loading onto the car, passing at a portage, or getting out in a harder spot. Having those handles there again is so nice. But we also designed them to be in a position to make sure you shouldn't be hitting your elbows on them. We finally added in a molded stern wall holder, which is huge for me when it comes to running waterfalls, because when that stern wall collapses, usually your stern will flex and it'll blow your skirt. So having the structure in the stern combined with the stern wall holder, I feel so much more confident to take this thing on waterfalls. What's next? What's next? What's next? We also kept the grab handles on the end of the boat sideways, which is just so much nicer when you're dragging the boat, passing the boat, just a lot more comfortable than when it's vertical. Then at the front grab handle, we actually moved it back ever so slightly and peaked the deck ever so slightly. And the reason for that was to give a little more structure in the front of the boat. So if you do somehow manage to piton this boat, which if you piton this boat, how? But if you somehow end up pitoning this boat, we gave it a little more structure up there so that way it's less likely to fold. Another thing we did is we actually didn't polish under the cockpit rim. We actually gave it a little bit of texture, and the reason for that, now by having that little bit of texture, even if this thing is fresh out of the bag, I feel confident my skirt's gonna stay on. So now after almost 3 weeks of paddling this boat, I've gotten it on the L-Dub, the Truss, the North Fork, Big Falls, got it now on the Stikine, which, first of all, the Stikine is so sick. Stikine in this boat is like, I just wanna go kayaking right now. I wanna go experience more joy. Yeah. Another thing we did to design the sidewall to be as stiff and structured as possible, we gave it a nice structure at the deck, but we also had the deck lines carry all the way to the hips. You're not gonna have to worry about the sides folding anymore, which I am stoked on. Another small detail, we went ahead and moved the buckle on the hip pads on the front instead of the back, so now your back band won't catch on it. And we added a second strap that you can tighten that down and make sure the hip pads are staying in place all day long. But yeah, after 3 weeks on so many different types of whitewater, I still even now find myself giggling when I feel something different from this boat. So much easier. Oh yeah. It is just an absolute joy to paddle. One thing that this boat seems to do ridiculously well is launching off of waves. It's insane. Like Alec yesterday on Everett's on the Stikine got the most ridiculous amount of air in this boat, and now for the next 4 laps or however many laps I get, that's my only goal. That and decide if Site Z is actually worth running right now. So that's the Gnarvana, and I seriously can barely express how stoked I am on this boat. It just feels like the total package that I've been wanting for so long. The confidence I am going to have in this boat on the hardest whitewater is going to be next level. It's actually going to be a problem. How am I supposed to say no when I have this? I'm concerned. I'll have to go back to Malupa and try to boof it. But seriously, this is the most one and done total package boat I've ever paddled. So if you want to experience a boat like nothing you've ever paddled before, you've got to try this boat. And another awesome thing about this boat is that it has a ridiculous weight range for people to paddle this boat. Alec and I are 40 pounds apart, and he still has like 4 inches of the stern out of the water and like a foot of the bow out of the water, and still experiencing all the same things I'm experiencing. But not only does this boat have a huge weight range, but it's coming in 3 sizes. But I'm also fired up about the fact that we scaled up the small ever so slightly from our traditional scaling, meaning so whether you're a smaller guy paddler or a smaller girl paddler, that boat is going to fit you great. So that's the Gnarvana. Again, I am beyond stoked on this boat, and if you want to experience a kayak like you've never experienced before, get in this boat. It is so sick. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and I'll catch you guys on the water. Let's go!